from Starliner Music. Welcome to my channel. Today in my fingerboard geometry series we'll be covering the diminished fifth within the caged system. First, we'll look at some fingerings and then we'll do some exercises. Here we go. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, today we're going to be talking about the diminished fifth within the caged system. So if you're not sure what the diminished fifth is, you need to check out my video on the definition of the diminished fifth and just basic fingerboard logic on that. We're going to put the diminished fifth within the caged system today. Now, the diminished fifth may also be called the sharp fourth or augmented fourth, or it might be called the tritone. So flat 5, sharp 4, tritone. It kind of goes by all of those names. And it's important because there's at least one diminished type chord within the major scale. So the diminished triad occurs on the 7th degree of the scale. Also, if you make that a 4-note chord, it's a minor 7th flat 5 chord. So if you're fingering those type of chords, you need to be able to find where that note is. If you're playing the Locrian mode, for example, that mode has a flat 5 in it, so it's helpful to be able to identify that interval. Also, the Lydian scale has a sharp 4 in it, and that again is the same note as a flat 5. So if you're playing the Lydian scale and you need to know which note is the sharp 4, being able to spot that interval within the caged system is extremely useful. So now that we've talked about the importance of the flat 5 sharp 4 tritone, let's look at some caged fingerings for that. So let's start with the root D. Here's my first caged pattern. The C shape looks like this. This is the C shape octave. And if I put the flat 5 around that octave pattern, I can start down here at the 6th string, and this is my flat 5 of D, that's A flat. And then there's the root D. Flat 5 is over here, A flat again. Then here's D. And then here's the next flat 5 in the caged pattern. So we have, so that's the C pattern. Let's move on to the A pattern. So the A pattern octave looks like this. So those are both D's again. And we're going to start here on the flat 5, A flat again, A flat, D, A flat, D, and I'm putting the A flat here. So that is the A pattern. Now let's move up to the G pattern. Here is the octave shape. Again, those are all D's. And now let's fill in with the flatted fifths. Those are A flat, so root, flat 5, root, flat 5, and the root again, D. Now let's go on to the E pattern. So here's the octave pattern. So those are D's. And now let's fill in the A flats, the flat 5. So root, flat 5, root, flat 5, root. And finally we have the D pattern of D. So here's D and the octave D, so D shape of D. And so let's fill in the flatted 5s. A flat is here. That's the flat 5 D, flat 5 A flat, D. And if you want, you could put another flat 5 here. So that's the D pattern. Now that we've done the root D, let's try one more. Before we get into the fingerings for the root G, I'd like to say that the caged fingerings I'm giving you here for the flat 5 are only a general guideline. They're not set in stone because certain arpeggios and or scales might need the flatted fifth fingered in the other direction from the root just to compact the fingering. So these are merely guidelines of how to finger the caged flat 5 or sharp 4. That being said, let's go on to the root G. So I'm going to start with the E pattern. Here are the roots G. And now let's fill in the flatted 5s. Root, flat 5, root, flat 5, root. Now let's move to the D pattern. So here are the octaves of G. And now let's add in the flat 5s. On to the C pattern of G. So my root's at the 10th fret. Here's its octave. And now the flat 5's added in. And next we have the A pattern. So here is the octave shape. So those are my G's. And now we're adding in the D flat, the flat 5. And now finally the G pattern of G. Here are the octaves. And now let's add in the flat 5s. Now, let's look at the exercises. All right, for the exercises, we'll be playing 5 caged patterns for each of the 12 roots going around the circle of fifths. So we'll start with the root C. We'll play 5 patterns for C, and then we'll go to the root G, play the 5 caged patterns for G, then continue moving through the circle. So after G, it's D, then A, then E. If you're not sure about what the circle of fifths is, please watch my video on that. I will give the order of the circle of fifths though in this video so you know what order to proceed in. Let's get a look at the first pattern. Now I'm just going to play from the lowest note on the 6th string to the highest note on the 1st string. And so the first caged pattern I'm going to do for the root C is the A pattern, and then I'll just follow up the neck after that. So I'm going to start on the flat 5 here. And then I move to the next pattern for C. This is the G pattern. Then the E pattern. D pattern, root C. And finally, the C pattern for root C. And then you would go on around the circle to the root G. Let's get a look. That's it for diminished fifths within the CAGED system. I'm Kimberly Allison from Starliner Music, and I hope to see you back on my channel soon.